friends, it is not because there is a procedure that whenever there is a meeting, somebody should welcome. This is not simply a procedure to me. It is necessary for some other meetings. But here in this center, whenever we are welcoming somebody, we are really welcoming them from the bottom of the heart. I feel really a sense of joy, and that in spite of a chilly evening, friends have come over here to celebrate Sri Aurobindo Siddhi. There are few friends, they are on the way, they are coming. But still, however, we have to start working. Well, we have discussed enough about the importance of 24th of November in the spiritual history of mankind, when Sri Aurobindo gained what we call Adimanas, and he started discovering what is further. And the goal that he achieved by declaring that he knows that there is something like supramental consciousness. We have discussed these things in the past. So today we are not discussing that. Today we are going to read Savitri. When you give a name of Sri Aurobindo, means Savitri. That is his highest creation. A wonderful creation and a wonderful poem. Now, Savitri is 24,000 stanza. We cannot deal with all. We can deal even not one canto. It is so much, is so rich, and there is so much in that canto, in every canto, in every sentence. It is a mantric poetry. And when you are talking about a mantric poetry, you have to deal with the secret of the mantra, what is behind that word. And therefore, even each line of Savitri takes a couple of hours. Each line, to understand it, what it is. So we cannot discuss the whole. But we are going to discuss today the 6th book. There are 12 books. We are going to discuss 6. And the name of the canto is The Word of Fate. Now if you open the book, it is right in the middle. And right in that canto, Sri Aurobindo has described the arrival of Narad Muni. Narad Muni, as you know, was the great sage of India. How he came and why he came and what happened to Savitri and his father and mother is so beautifully described, so wonderfully described. There is no word for it, I tell you. Now this is the canto. Sri Aurobindo improved upon it in the last year of his life. He died in 1950. Right in 1950, he said, "You give me back that canto, Word of Fate, I wanted to improve upon it." But before we discuss this canto, it is necessary to know Actually, who is Narada Muni? The spiritual history, Indian spiritual history, there is one important character is normally which we have neglected. Nowhere you find name of Narada Muni nowadays. But Narada Muni was a very great character, and nobody can neglect or omit Narada Muni, those who are interested in the spiritual history of India. You take a Veda, you take a Upanishad, if you read 18 Puranas, there are number 18. None of the 18 out of one, any, is without Narada Muni. His contribution to Indian spirituality and Indian culture is worth noting. There are many people, they read Ramayana, Mahabharata, etc., Bhagavad. Very few people are aware of the fact that Ramayana, the existence of Ramayana is there because of Narada Muni. I know so many people, they read now Ramayana, they go on discussing Ramayana, they give all Katha Ramayana, they do not know this. When Valmiki ji was contemplating to write a big poem, a very big poem is normally called an epic. And whenever you want to write an epic, you need to have a story and a message and a character in which an elements of war is always there. You take any great epic, either from the Eastern world or from the Western world, there is always some war element is there. It's so fascinating. So Valmiki ji was contemplating where to find out a theme. You need to have a theme to write an epic. By the time he was contemplating, he met Narada Muni. Narada Muni said, "Hello, Valmiki ji, how are you?" He said, "I am not that fine. He said, "What is wrong?" He said, "Look, I wanted to write a big poetry and somehow there is no a good theme. Can you supply me a theme?" Now, you do not need only theme, you need a character. You see, only theme is not important. You need a character because character has to execute the theme. And that character must be strong enough to carry the message, because every poet has a message through that character. Well, Narada Muni was, he was moving around, he was quite aware. He was a man who was having he was moving around in Trilok. Trilok, you understand? All the world, he was moving around. So he was knowing so many things. He was a man of information. He said, "I can give you a piece of information, very interesting one." He said, "Who?" He said, "There is a man called Ram. And he played a all big Ramayana, and he used to stay in Ayodhya, and he established a Ramrajya. Why don't you write? That is a very good thing." And Valmiki was very happy. And that is how we got Ramayana. If Valmiki, if Narada Muni would not have been there, perhaps we might not have had that opportunity to read Ramayana. That is not the case only for Ramayana. Even for Mahabharata also, it's a Narada who instigated Veda Vyas, that whatever you have written is very good, but it is just sufficient. And therefore Mahabharata came into existence. Same is the case with the third great poem, what is done? I have forgotten the name. You see, all three great epics that India has produced and has gifted to the world literature, they all came into existence because of Narad Muni. If Narad Muni would not have been there, well, things would not have happened. Thanks to Narad Muni. That is not the only way. As I said, there is no Puran without a Narad. In every Puran, the character of Narad is there. In Upanishad, Narad Muni is there. In several other in the Indian literature, you find a Narad Muni. Now, why Narad Muni plays such a big role? Because he was a great communicator. Now you are living in a country of media and communication. Who was Narad in ancient India? Narad was a great communicator. He himself was a media, himself was an institution of communication. He can communicate in any part of the world, in any part of the Brahman. Narad Muni was a son of Brahma. He was a Manas Putra of Brahma. And the name of his guru was Lord Vishnu. Now, as you know, Vishnu is a originator and sustainer of this world. And Narad Muni was his disciple. At one place, Sri Aurobindo said, who is Narad? He said, Narad is a slave of Vishnu. You see, those who surrender to God, in a real sense of the term, they become a slave of the God. They don't feel, oh, I cannot surrender. I refuse to surrender. They will not say. They will say, I will surrender. Lord Krishna said, Sharanam Mama. Sri Aurobindo said, surrender. Unconditional surrender. Purna Yoga requires unconditional surrender. Now, it is said, there is a story that Narad was cursed by a great Muni. That, look, I curse you. You will become a vagabond. You will not be allowed by God to sit down at one place and to contemplate. You become the vagabond. Narad Muni took it very lightly and gave a smile. All right then, I will be move around and I will talk about, I will chant my Guru's name. Narayana, 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 Narayana. He was chanting everywhere, going everywhere and chanting his Guru's name. He said, well, it is a good opportunity. A curse can be a good opportunity. You see, he was not discouraged by the curse. He said, I will utilize this opportunity and I will see that everybody will carry, I will carry the message of my Guru wherever I will go. Now, I don't know how many of you know that on this earth, on this world, on this planet, the process of evolution is going on. Who runs this process? Is Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu is interested to accelerate the process of evolution on earth. Because evolution goes very slowly. If evolution goes slowly, well, it can be understandable if evolution working slowly, very slowly, perhaps among animals. But a man, who is an awakened man, a conscious man, is expected to accelerate the evolution. Now Vishnu is interested in doing that, to accelerate the process. So he said to Narad, Narad, you better go to earth. Now, you see, Sri Aurobindo is using Narad as a great communicator of his own message. And Narad is so intelligent, so clever in communicating that he will not make any mistake. No mistake. He had that capacity to convey a message, at times a bitter message, at times a bitter truth, in such a fashion that it will really reach to a party where exactly it should go. Narad was, according to Sri Aurobindo, Narad is a great man of knowledge. I am very unhappy. There is not a single college in India has given say Narad College. No. Nowhere. We don't remember. He was a great man of knowledge. He was a master of Vedanta. Master. Nobody can beat him. His mastery over Samaved was so strong. And you know, Samaved means music. Indian music has its roots in Samaved. You see, Narad was an inventor of a veena. He was an inventor. He came out with an instrument to play. And he used to chant, he used to sing songs for his guru. A wonderful singer, a wonderful musician. And today, we have also invited musicians. A wonderful musicians are going to play. It's a very happy combination to talk about Narad and to have a music. You see, there is no musical academy having a name of an Narad. That's another surprising thing. India is full of surprise. Many surprises are there. Now, Narad is a man of such a communication that everybody would like to use Narad, especially when there is a quarrel. And you know, in the whole world, even actually in the world of Devas, also there is a quarrel. And therefore, they will call Narad. Narad himself will reach there. Narad knows everything. Narad is a Trikal. He knows the past, he knows the present, and he knows the future. So he knows everything. He will just go there, will talk to them, will listen to them, and then will go to Vishnu. You know, Vishnu is sleeping, our great God. You say, Narad was very, yes, coming, Gayatri. Please be seated there. Come, please. You see, Narad was such a great man that he will be well received everywhere, wherever he will go. In this party he will go, he will be well received. The quarreling other party he will go, he will be well received. So he is in a position to communicate things from one party to another party. So if there is any quarrel, any trouble, he will go to Vishnu and will make a complaint, "Hey, Lord Vishnu, what are you doing?" People are in this position, they are, they remember you and you do nothing. And you say, "All right, you take away my message." It is the business of the Narada Muni to go to the Vaikuntha, staying in the Vaikuntha, to talk to Lord Vishnu and then bring the message and will convey to the humanity that, look, God is thinking of in this way. You are thinking whatever may be. Now he has that capacity to persuade people. It is not that very easy. Sometimes when God, he had that, he was given that freedom that he can talk and contradict even God. He will say to Vishnu, "No, sir, you are talking this way, but that people are thinking this way. Let us change. What about this?" Like that, he can talk. He was so well received a personality. He was a very charming personality. And then whatever the message will come, he will come in. Now, to communicate truth is no easy joke. Truth is normally very unpleasant phenomena. It is very difficult, it is very hurting. And Narad is playing he was a great diplomat, I tell you. Unfortunately, in Indian foreign affairs studies or Indian universities in political science, we never teach Narad. Narad was a quasi-politician. You understand what is quasi? Quasi means a bit. Nowadays, everybody is expected to become quasi-politician. If you are a businessman, you are supposed to become big politician. If you are a teacher, you are supposed to become big politician. If you are whatever you are, even if you are an artist, you are supposed to become big politician. If Lata Mangeshkar is not a politician, she could not have reached to that light. You understand? You are expected to become little politician. And Narad Muni said, there is nothing wrong in becoming little politician if you serve the good. Even he does not believe in the fair means. At times he said, if it is necessary to lie, lie. If you can serve the great good. That does not mean that he was an ordinary man. That, he was the man. No. As I said, he was a mastermind. And Aurobindo has used 3 words for Narad. Who was Narad? Narad was a man of knowledge. Number 1. Who is Narad? Narad is a symbol of a devotion. Who is Narad? Narad is a man of I forgot he was a devotee. He was a man of knowledge, and third I don't know, I have forgotten. But then he was a devotee. He is the man who has written an authentic book on Bhakti movement, Narad Sutra. If you read Narad Sutra, that was the authentic book on Bhakti Marg. Anybody who comes to you and say, I believe in Bhakti Marg, well, in Pushti Margi or anybody else, well, you just can't put out Narad. Narad is Narad. His book on Bhakti Marg is very well translated by Chinmayanand. That book is available here in Chinmayanand Ashram, if at all you are going there. So Narad was a man of great diplomacy, he was an artist, he had an art to communicate, to persuade people, and to tell the truth, and to reveal the truth. So he's a very nice character, wonderful character. Everybody has used it. Lord Krishna says in Upanishad Gita that who is Narad? That among Brahmashri, Lord Krishna said, I am Narad. You see, Narad is having several titles. Many awards have been given to Narad. I have got a whole list of it. About 39 big awards were given to him. I kept that paper. I don't want to discuss in detail because we wanted to go to Savitri. Now, I am giving you this small survey of Narad Muni, that he played a very important role in the spiritual history of India, and he was not a man of mischief maker. He was not a Kalaha Priya, as we believe in. If you go to any movie on Hindu mythology, when the entry of Narad comes, the whole audience will become alert. Now Narad has come, so something will happen. Narad is a man who can create an event. You see, he has that capacity. But basically he was not a man who loves quarrel. He was a man of a great knowledge. So, Sri Aurobindo is using this character of Narad in his own Savitri. What is his mission? His mission is to go to the earth and reveal the truth. Narad is told that you are expected to open the world of the fate. Mind well, the fate. Who is not interested in the fate? And the word of fate is so very important, and it is so very dangerous too. And the way in which Sri Aurobindo uses this character, that he is playing with the character in such a fashion that perhaps he likes, if you ask Sri Aurobindo which is the best canto you like, perhaps he will say this is the canto, a word of fate. So let me read few passages of this canto. We will take the transa, every transa will take, and we discuss what it is. We will not be able to discuss everything, but few passages, and we will discuss what he said. He said, it is known as the word of fate. Narad is asked to open before the Savitri, what is going to be your fate? Now, the canto starts with, in a silent bounds bordering the mortal's plain, crossing the wide expanse of a brilliant peace, Narad, the heavenly sage from paradise, came chanting through the large and lustrous air. These are the four transas. What do you think? How much time it takes? It takes about 8 hours. It's so beautiful, it's so nice, and full of secrets. We'll talk about it for few minutes. You see, Narad was, what is the home address of Narad? Where Narad used to stay? Narad was staying in paradise. Now what is paradise? What we call Swarga. Paradise is a place which is very peaceful, very beautiful, decent. There is no trouble there, no noise, and all devas are immortal. There is no disease, there is no death, everything is fine. This is the paradise. Are you interested to go to paradise or not? Narad, that is his home address. Narad was asked, and here is a Guru. Guru sent a message, come on Narad, get ready. Now Narad has to come to the earth. So what is the first question that Narad has to tackle? The body in paradise is different than the body on the earth. You see, after all, you are staying in Swarga. Swarga. A body, a physical body in paradise, how can it be equal to this mortal body? Mortal body is full of corruption. Mortal body is full of diseases, and you die. That cannot be the body. You see, in paradise, they live with a divine body. Now, if Narada wants to come to the earth, he has to change his body from a divine body to come to the earth. Otherwise, if he will not become a man, then nobody will listen to him. So the first thing that he has to do is, he has to transform his body, to transmute his body, and from the divine body come to the physical body. Now if I tell anybody that once upon a time in India, we had a science of transmutation of the body. You can change the chemicals of your body. The whole chemistry you can change. And there is a long discussion on it. Sri Aurobindo himself has written on his commentary on 10 Upanishads, how to transmute your body. Mind well, there are people, they are very critical about the Indian culture, Indian spirituality, Indian history. They say this is all nonsense. This is all fairy tale. They say. Well, this is not a fairy tale. This is not a time to discuss why India is having the last word of the world civilization. Is because of this. This is not a time to discuss. Someday I will discuss why India is supposed to become the guru of the world and no other country than this. Not now, it is coming up. Things are coming up. Now, you see, our body is made of Pancha Mahabhuta. You understand? Pancha Mahabhuta, you understand, right? It is air, it is sky, it is water, it is Pancha Mahabhuta. These 5 elements. You see, Sanatana Hindu Dharma has a tremendous capacity to supply the basic truth to the world, which you cannot change. Like scientific theory, you can change every now and then. After 6 months, scientific theory, they say, oh, no. Up till now we are talking about atom, but now we are talking about electricity. That is not the case with India. Once we supply a truth, it's final. We have given several final truths. It is Sanatana. It is eternal truth. What is the Dharma, Hindu Dharma? Hindu Dharma is a supplier of an eternal truth. So Narad Muni started changing his body. Now, it is not simply changing a body and to become a physical body. While coming back, he has to become again a divine. So he has to learn the two-way traffic. It is a two-way traffic. He is coming down, at the same time he is going back. He has to become again a divine. Otherwise, he is not allowed to stay in a Vaikuntha. In Vaikuntha, how can you stay with a mortal body? You cannot. Okay. So, Narad Muni, Narad, the heavenly sage from paradise, came chanting through the large and lustrous air. So he was coming down. As he was coming down, there was a vast area of peace. Mind well, he was traveling the Antariksha. In those days, Narada was traveling the Antariksha. Our Chandrayaan has already reached and is going to stay. And there is a very happy news that our scientists have prepared a Surya Yaan. Very soon, within 2 years, the designs are ready. Within 2 years, we are going to supply. We are going to go to the sun to find out the effect of the sun rays. You go to any scientist of India, any great scientist of India, he is not simply a student of science, he is also a student of Sanskrit literature, especially Indian scriptures. You know, they cannot go without him. They run on two. That is not the case with the Western scientists. Okay. Now he was crossing the vast, space, chanting Narayan, 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 and he was observing here and there. There are many things in the space. There are many good things, many beautiful things. How come he was so much attracted to come to earth? He could have gone somewhere else, of course. So he had three things in his mind, that he wants to come to earth to supply the word of faith, that this is your faith. Secondly, he said he wanted to come to earth. So when he was coming, he was playing veena, and he was singing a song. Now in paradise there is nothing like a grief. So he was doing the song only of joy. He had never an idea that he will be asked someday to play a sorrowful music. So he was coming, chanting, and as he was coming down, when he came very near to the earth, he was facing a problem, another problem, that there are vibrations of the earth. And what type of vibrations that he was facing? All sorrow. It is suffering. It is all violence. It is all quarrel. And Narad was feeling a sense, he was a little uncomfortable. That what is this? That the vibration is not good. The vibration was coming from the earth atmosphere. So he was a bit heavy. When vibration is not okay, he feels, whenever you go to India, sometimes, when people come back, if you ask, what do you feel? They say, Jagdish Bhai, don't ask this question. The vibration in India is most disgusting. Narad was facing. It is not only in India, throughout the world, the whole vibration, today's vibration is nothing but a disgusting atmosphere that is prevailing on this earth. Mind it. Sri Aurobindo knows. Okay? Now he is coming and he was feeling uncomfortable, and where he is chanting. Now, there is another fourth raga we take. Attracted by the golden summer earth that lay beneath him like a glowing mouse, tilted upon a table of the gods, turning as if moved round by an unseen hand, to catch the warmth and the blaze of a small sun, he passed from the immortal's happy past to a world of toil and quest and grief and hope, to these rooms of the seesaw game of death and life. Now look at the atmosphere on the earth. Sri Aurobindo describes in the most poetic fashion what is this earth. Now, the Tranza makes clear that is coming in the summer. It is a summer sun. He didn't say it is monsoon sun. He said it is winter. It is not a winter sun. It is a summer sun that he is talking about. In summer, the earth looks very golden. It's so beautiful. And he said it is like it is on the table, and it is little bit tilted. Tilted means on something, it is like it is on this side, little bit tilted. It is like a bowl. And it is so attractive to Narad that he wants to go to. Now, I don't want to discuss about the sun. Sri Aurobindo has written many things about the sun because we don't have much time. The sun is very important. Sun has played a very important role in the Indian culture, in the Indian history, and Indian civilization. You understand the sun. But we will not discuss that part. The part that is very important is that he was coming to a place, to a world of toil and a quest and grief and hope. To these rooms of seesaw game of death and life. Look, now Narad Muni is asked why Narad Muni is coming. Living paradise. Who likes to live paradise? He is coming to the earth which is full of suffering, it's a toil. It is burning. Why Nana should come over here? You see, this world is full of suffering. Sri Aurobindo said, this world is suffering, is toil. There is no happiness on this world. So many times I have told you, if you go to Lord Buddha and ask, what is this world? Lord Buddha will say, Jagat Dukham. This world is full of sorrow. If you go to Adi Shankaracharya and ask Shankaracharya, what is this world? Shankaracharya will say, oh, it is full of pain. This sansar, you forget it. You get out of this sansar and try to be sannyasi and find out your moksha. This world is not worth living. Who is saying? Who speaks? Shankaracharya. It is not only Eastern philosophy. If you go to Krishnamurti, you know the name of the Krishnamurti, Jiddu Krishnamurti, an incarnation of Lord Buddha. Maitreya, when Krishnamurti was asked, Sir, what is this world? He said, this world is full of sorrow with occasional joy. He said, joy comes, but once a while. Otherwise it is all full of sorrow. It is suffering. It is nothing but a pain. Go to the Western world. Then we will be able to know the name of a great poet called Keats. When Keats was asked, a great European poet, what is this world? And he said, this world is essentially a nest of sorrow. It is a nest, but it is also sorrow. You know, when the first atom was thrown, the Oppenheimer, the scientist, he was so much afraid with the very idea that it is down, they were already thrown, that he started reading Gita. He was, there are so many scientists, they are unhappy. Now they are coming to the same, that this world, if this is the world, there are scientists, they have committed a suicide. Our Sani Guruji, a very well-known sage of Maharashtra, he committed a suicide. That, oh, there is no possibility of any change in this world. Let there be one Obama or 100 Obama, the man is going to remain the same and the suffering will continue. Mind well. Now Narad Muni is coming. He said, look, Narad Muni, you go there and find out what is the position. As he was coming down, you see, we go to other places. Now he has to come. Where he has to come? On earth. What is the part? That is India. What is the place? It is called Madra or Madradesh, what we call it. Where is that Madradesh? It is on the bank of Ganga. It is known as on the bank. Ganga is knowing, you see, there are several names of Ganga. At one place, Ganga is known as Alak Ganga. At another place, Ganga is known as Bhagirathi. You see, so when I was traveling through that part, and I was watching right from the top to down, the Alaknanda looks so beautiful under the Himalayan, on the flow of Himalayan and the water, and the very clean water flowing Alaknanda. Right on the bank of Alaknanda, there is a place called Madhya where there was a big palace of Lord Ashwapati. Now, Sri Aurobindo has written, many people have written, articles, what type of palace it was. There are different palaces in the world. What was the difference between the different palaces and Ashwapati's palace? It was considered a very delicate palace, where Ashwapati, a yogi, was staying with his wife and a daughter, Savitri. Now, Narad has to come to that part of Madra. Now, Narad Muni is coming to Madra, and the moment he came, it is said, in Madra, flowering up in a delicate stone, the stone that they have selected for the palace of Ashwapati was so delicate, so beautiful, so nice. It is uncomparable with the different palaces, King Ashwapati's palace of the winds, in Madras, flowering up in a delicate stone, there welcomed him the sage and a thoughtful king. Now, when Narad is coming, Ashwapati was alert. Who was Ashwapati? Ashwapati was also a yogi. He became alert. He went a little out and he said, Brahmashri, please come in. I am very happy. We are very fortunate. You just come. And then he is introducing his wife. That, look, this is my wife. And in Mahabharata, the name of her wife is Malavi. He said, look, here is my wife, is also very happy in receiving you. We know the Atithi. And Ashwapati was a very great yogi. And when the Brahmashri himself is coming to his palace, that was a little embarrassing, and that was a great thrill for Ashwapati. That, oh, very good, very good. And his wife said, you have come for a right time. You see, when Sri Aurobindo writes the poetry, he himself is revealing certain facts, what is going to come. You see, Narad Muni, one of the characteristics of Narad Muni is that wherever he will go in time. Sometimes before time. He knows the importance of time. At what time to do what, and at what time not to do not. At what time what to speak, and what time what not to speak. At what time to remain silent. But wherever he has gone, Narad was never late. Narad was in time. He came before 1 hour. Now Savitri's entry is to come, but Narad came before 1 hour. Also, as usual, he was received in the palace. They sit down, and then they started chatting, how are you, everything is fine here, this, that, another. And then afterwards, for an half an hour, he played a veena. And he went on playing veena. Okay? Queen is very happy because, you see, now, you see, I do not want to go much in this. This is a very so good thing. They were talking about the same. What was the topic? That world is very unhappy. That was the topic. And then the discussion is on unhappiness is there. But I don't want to go much into detail because it will be too long a time. I want to take you a little speed, with some speed. And he was sitting over there, and Savitri came. After an hour, Savitri came. So Narad asked, a very good word. He cried to her, "Who is this that came, the bride?" नारद पूछे છે એ કોણ આવ્યું આ નવવધુ કોણ આવ્યું આ જે છોકરી આવી છે કોણ છે who is this girl? As if Narad Muni is not knowing that there is a Savitri. You see, Narad being a Trikala Gnani, he was knowing everything, but still he was making a little show that he is not knowing the third party. He said, "Who is this girl?" Okay, so Ashwapati is answering. Now, Narad is describing the Savitri, what type of girl she was. The flame born and round her illumined head. He said, "Oh, she's a girl as if she is coming from the flame, as if she is a daughter of sun, like Surya. From Surya she is coming." She was that reddish when she came. Now, Narad came to Madra with speed because he was afraid that if he will be late and if Savitri will come and if Savitri will reveal his word and then he will stick to her word, then it would be difficult to change her word. So he wanted to come there, and before Savitri takes the final decisions, he wanted to convey the word. This is a mystery. This is so interesting. It is like a spy story. If you read this, it is so interesting. You see, Narad Muni was very clear. He is saying, "The flame born and round her illumined head, powering the lights and her hymeneal palms, move flashing about her from what green glimmer of glades, retreating into the Devi silences, or half-seen verge of water's moon." You know, there is a description of Savitri Kevi Lage, what type of girl she looks. And at one place he says, because Savitri came, when Savitri came, Savitri also came with a speed. Now why Savitri came with a speed? Because she had a one word. What is the word? That, "Look, father, I have selected the boy." So she was rushing. She was rushing with a good news. She was full of joy. And in the description, this description, Sri Aurobindo says her eyes are full of joy. It was not simply full of joy. Sri Aurobindo said her eyes were full of joy and enthusiasm. There are people, they are full of joy. But here, it is a mixture of joy and enthusiasm and with a speed. When a young girl, coming with a speed, with the joy in her eyes, with the enthusiasm in his whole body, when she was feeling a thrill to break the news. What is the news? Very good. I will tell you. I will read that news. How he breaks the news of her love. That how she fall in love with Satyavan. It's so interesting. It's so interesting. Why you people are reading romantic novels, I don't understand. They are useless people, you know, they do not understand. It is all twopenny books. These are tuppenny. These are useless books. It is known in Great Britain as twopenny books. It is sold on the footpath. It is full of romance. A divine romance. You see, now I will tell you why, how. It's so very interesting. It's so beautiful. Look, here said, "A flame of radiant happiness she was born." Savitri કેવી હતી? Radiant. She was reddish. Her cheeks were reddish. It was not simply reddish, little more reddish. Because she came with thrill. There are people, they are reddish though. But here, Sri Aurobindo has taken a note of it, that when somebody is coming with a good news, with a rush, her cheeks were more than reddish. It was little more reddish. A flame of radiant happiness she was born, and surely will that flame set earth alight. Doom surely will see her pass and say no word. That comes now. Narad Muni asked, who is this girl? Then, I hope, let me take a little water. I feel thirsty. That no son was, not available. There was Murutyu no boy was available. So, Ashwapati himself said, Savitri, better you go and find out a boy. Find out a good man, whatever you like. Find out a husband or find out a companion. Now mind well. When Savitri went out to find out, not a husband. Let us understand this poem in a modern terms. Husband and wife are the dirty words nowadays. People are not interested. Young generation is not interested in husband and wife. People are interested, young generation is interested in companion. Wife is a companion of a husband. And if she is companion, then the marriage life goes well. Husband is a companion of a wife. The moment she look wife as a companion, his perception as a wife will be totally changed. So Savitri was in search of a companion. Why companion? Because Savitri was born with a mission. Earlier we have discussed, those who know, she was born with a mission. Temporarily, she forgot that mission. So somebody has to come to make her alive, that look Savitri, you are born for a mission. So Naradji came and he said, now Yashopati asked the daughter, come on. And Savitri answered with her still calm voice. Very nice girl. Very well brought up girl. A well brought up girl will talk with her parents in a little calm down tone. She had a very important news, but she was a bit calm. Okay? And Savitri answered with her still calm voice, and one who speaks beneath the eyes of fate. Father and King, I have carried out thy will. One whom I sought I found in a distant lands. I have obeyed my heart. I have heard its call. On my borders of a dreaming wilderness, mid Salva, giant hills of brooding woods, in this thick hermitage, Dumitsen dwells, blind, exiled, outcast, once a mighty king, the son of Dumitsen, Satyavan, I have met on the wild forest lonely verge. But challi line out, last line. My father, I have chosen, this is done. It's a very beautiful thing. She is narrating that, Father, it is because of you, because you asked me to go, I have carried out my mission, and to fulfill your ambition, to fulfill your word, I had been to several hills and mountains, and there is a mountain called Salva, there is a place called Salva, there is a kingdom, and there is a king. Somebody played a dirty mischief, and he was thrown out A Duryodhana was the king of Salva without eyes. You see, that's a very beautiful story, why he was without eyes. And he recovers his eyes afterwards. You know, beautiful. It is not a time to discuss all these things. It's just so beautiful. You see, and there was, he was there and he had a son. His name was Satyavan. And he said, Father, and this is very important thing. Father, I have chosen. This is done. Now, you see, when you read poetry, you have to be very careful. Sometimes certain words they do not use. It is implied. When Savitri said, Father, it is done, that means, Father, now it cannot be undone. You understand? Do you follow up my point? You say, Father, I have done, it is all done. It is complete. The process is complete. Now no more stamp of approval. Though I am here to have your approval, but it's a blessing rather than an approval. So, Father, I have fulfilled the mission. I have done. Now mind that. Naradji was there. Oh God. She has already selected a boy. It is done. And very good. So, both very, very happy. So he said, come on. So, look what his father, Ashwapati, is saying. What Ashwapati is saying? What Ashwapati is saying? I have met Ram. Well, hast thou done, and I approve my choice. Approve. Is approved. Father says yes. Well, hast thou done? If this is all, then is surely well. When you are selecting a boy, and you said that Satyavan is a very good boy, well, it is okay, fine. It is done. Okay, very good. If there is more, then all can still be well. Suppose if it is not all right, you have selected, so everything is fine. But let us believe for a while that there is something wrong with his selection. Even then, Ashwapati said, even then, I say it is okay. Because even in something wrong, even in there is something evil, in ultimate sense, God makes things good. You see, this poem is a poem of a hope. It's a wonderful poem. Savitri was written in the historical period between one World War and the Second World War. And during the World War, the depression was so much that absolutely there was no chance of any joy in those days. And the whole world was sinking in depression. Sri Aurobindo came up with a poetry, a poem, and a truth that here is a hope. It's a wonderful hope. Well, you want to go for music? It's time to go for?
7:20.
Huh?
It's 7:20 right now.
It's, how much time you can give me, spare me? What do you think? When you want to start with? Because people are eager to listen to music, right? Then I do not want to impose myself on music. Should I close it here or? Okay. So I'm sorry. It's a very beautiful poetic narration. You know it. But some other time, if you come back, I will narrate this how the Narad, the dialogue between the father and the Narad, the dialogue between the mother and the Narad, and the dialogue between the Savitri and Narad, the way in which Sri Aurobindo narrates is fantastic. There is no other poem in the world who can match Savitri. I assure you. You bring any man of English literature, I assure you, there is no way we can beat Satyavan and Savitri. And it is not a poetry in a way, it is a mystery. It is a mystical truth. It is not a technical color picture. It is not a fairy tale. It is not something that they are telling just out of a poetry. He has written poetry out of a poetry. No, it is not like that. There is no picture cue. In this poetry, there is no picture cue for the sake of giving a picture. All symbols are correct. Each one carries the truth. Each one carries a message. And every page, Sri Aurobindo proves that he has a concern for humanity. What humanity needs is love. That is the message of this poem. It is, let there be death, let there be fight, because, excuse me for 5 minutes, because at one stage, Sri Aurobindo is discussed, what is this word? Is it the first sentence, first stanza I have forgotten, the stanza. It is said, what is that? Just a minute. It's so beautiful. Across the well, I have forgotten now, but anyway, he in that stanza he says that on this earth, it is so interesting. On this earth is what is going on. It is a tussle between life and a death. It's a big fight going on. It is a continuous fight between a life and a death. It is a tussle, and you know, everybody knows, right from morning you get up till you go to sleep, even in sleep, the tussle to live continues. Fight against death is continuous. It's a big battle. And if you read Gita, the 5th chapter called Battlefield, wonderful. What Sri Aurobindo has written. Where is not a battle? Where is not a battle? Right in your body there is a battle between the right cell and a white cell. It's battle that is going on. Whether the life will win or the death will win. And in Savitri, he proves that day will come when life will win in totality. There will be no more death. Thank you.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Excuse me, but let there be a music, because music is one of the ways to reach to divine. And madam, take your own time. I will not say stop it. Those who want to run away, please go. The dish is ready up, but we are going to sit and to listen to you. We never say anybody. You see, please, go ahead.
Thank you.
We'll just take a 5-minute break so that,
Yeah, they
Let
will
me
come.
settle down
Yes.
and then we'll start.